Hey babe, I'm heading to the winery now. I might be tipsy when I get back tomorrow, but don't worry, Fiona says I need it. Click. That wasn't the part that destroyed me. It was the part that came after she thought she hung up. The recording kept going. 39 more seconds. Giggles. A man's voice. Her whispering. Not now, he might call back. My hand was shaking so hard, I nearly dropped the phone. I replayed it twice. No distortion. No background noise to mask the truth. She wasn't alone in that car. It was Friday. She left at 9:02 a.m. I got the voicemail at 10:11. By 10:17, I'd picked up both kids from school with a lie about a family emergency. By noon, I was emptying drawers into garbage bags. I didn't cry. Not then. You see, when someone cheats on you, it's not the betrayal that hits first. It's the humiliation. The way your mind starts racing to every moment you thought they were yours. Every stupid date night. Every time they said they were tired. Every, I love you, that now feels like a decoy. We were supposed to have pancakes that weekend. Instead, I left the syrup bottle tipped over on the kitchen counter like a crime scene. I didn't tell her anything. No angry text. No righteous speech. Just silence. I wanted her to walk into a house that didn't answer back. I wanted her to open the kids' bedroom doors and feel that eerie, airless quiet that only comes when everything is wrong. She had no idea what those 39 seconds would cost her. And the worst part? She still hasn't heard that voicemail. Because I never told her she left it. I didn't pack like a man on a mission. I packed like a man in shock. I started with the kids' clothes, safer ground. Fewer memories in small t-shirts and cartoon pajamas. I kept telling myself, just grab what they need. Essentials only. But then I opened our bedroom drawer to find my son's baby socks mixed in with Avery's lingerie. The same drawer where she used to tuck handwritten notes for me before work. The same drawer where I found a silk blindfold 2 years ago and assumed it was a gag gift from Fiona. It wasn't. The drawer collapsed as I pulled it open too fast. I stood there, surrounded by cotton and lace, staring at a tiny sock that said, Mommy's Boy, and a black lace thong that didn't look familiar. The contrast was so absurd I started laughing, loud, bitter, hysterical. Moose barked from the hallway. I think I scared him. I shoved everything into bags without folding. I didn't care anymore. Order felt pointless. The kids were downstairs watching cartoons, oblivious. I kept checking the time, terrified she'd cut the trip short. I kept thinking, what if she turns around? What if she forgets something and comes back? Every sound outside sent a jolt down my spine. I don't know what I would have done if she walked through that door mid-escape. Maybe I would have thrown the phone at her face. Maybe I would have begged her to lie better. I packed fast, but my mind was stuck. That voicemail, those 39 seconds, kept playing on a loop in my head. I could hear the shift in her voice, the way it went from cheerful wife to secretive teenager in a split second. And that man's laugh. It was low, confident, not panicked at all. They weren't worried. They were comfortable. That meant this wasn't new. I didn't have time to process that. So I focused on the garage, threw suitcases in the trunk, double-checked the booster seats, left the lights on in every room because I wanted her to feel like she'd just missed us. Like we evaporated. Before leaving, I paused by the fridge. She always left sticky notes there with grocery lists and dumb little affirmations. Drink water, call your mom, love you red heart. I took a Sharpie and wrote 3 words in huge black letters. We were here. Then I walked out, locked the door behind me, and never looked back. She didn't call that night. Didn't notice. But the next morning? 10 missed calls. 2 voicemails. One of them started with crying. The other ended in silence. I listened to neither. Instead, I opened the Airbnb door, watched my kids run to their bunk beds, and sat on the floor of a stranger's living room holding a phone that wouldn't stop buzzing. And for the first time in 12 years, I didn't answer when Avery called. I was never supposed to see that text. It came from her sister, Marley. We'd never been close. Avery said she was too chaotic, whatever that meant, but Marley always liked me. She used to say I was the only man in our family tree who looked like he paid his taxes and felt guilty about it. She didn't know Avery left her phone logged into our old iMac. She hadn't used that computer in months, probably forgot it existed. But when it dinged Sunday morning and I saw Marley's name, I opened the message like a sleepwalker. It said, "Wait, are you sure he doesn't know about Palm Springs? I still can't believe you went through with it." Palm Springs. Not the winery. Not the spa weekend she sold me. Not Fiona's cozy rental by the lake. She had flown to a different state entirely. With him. I remember blinking at the screen, like maybe I was hallucinating. Maybe Marley had the wrong number. Maybe this was an old message, resurfacing through a tech glitch. Maybe I'd fallen asleep and was dreaming it all. But then the photos synced. I don't even remember authorizing it. Suddenly, her cloud storage began populating on the screen. Hundreds of images. There she was. Avery. Wearing a red bikini I'd never seen before, holding a cocktail the size of a salad bowl, sitting poolside beside the man from the voicemail. A man with a tattoo of a bird on his neck and a face like a smug movie villain. They weren't hiding. There were selfies, group shots, candid giggles. One photo even had the caption, "Finally got her to myself kiss mark." I stared at that photo for 20 straight minutes. Then I threw up. In the sink. In someone else's rental kitchen. The kids were in the other room, building Lego cities and asking for juice. And I was gripping the counter, retching over someone else's farmhouse sink, because the woman I'd once begged to marry me had lied about where she was, who she was with, and, apparently, who she was now. It was never just the voicemail. She had been planning this for a while. I was the fool with the lunchbox, sending her off with good wishes while she was boarding a flight to meet the guy who once trained her to do squats in our garage. I sat down at the kitchen table with a dish towel in my lap, just staring at nothing. I didn't even realize Moose had jumped up and curled beside my leg until he sighed like he, too, had given up on pretending everything was okay. Then my phone lit up. It was her. Avery. FaceTime. My thumb hovered over the screen like it was radioactive. My entire body tensed. I didn't answer. Instead, I used the camera app to snap one blurry photo of me and the kids sitting around the cabin table. No smiles. No poses. Just proof of life. Then I sent it to her with a single caption. "We're fine. You don't need to come back." And I turned the phone off. Because I knew that message would burn her from the inside out. And because I wasn't sure what I'd say if I heard her voice right then. Especially since I was starting to realize something horrifying. I didn't miss her. I missed who I thought she was. The phone stayed off for days. Not because I was being strong, but because I was terrified that if I heard her voice, even for a second, I'd break. I'd stutter through something pathetic like, "Why him?" Or "Was it me?" Or "Do you still love me?" And I knew if I asked any of those questions, I wouldn't survive her answers. So I kept it off. But that didn't stop her from finding ways in. On the fourth morning, I woke up to my daughter, Isla, holding my phone in her tiny hands, proudly saying, "It turned back on by itself." She smiled. I didn't. The lock screen had 78 missed calls, 41 voicemails, 112 texts, all from Avery. My stomach dropped. I snatched the phone gently, trying not to scare her, and told her to go brush her teeth, even though it was barely 6 a.m. And then, like an idiot, I pressed play. The first few voicemails were what you'd expect. Sad, confused, apologetic. Her voice cracked on the word please. I could hear wind in the background. Maybe she was outside when she recorded it. Maybe pacing our porch, expecting me to pull into the driveway. But then the tone shifted. One voicemail started with, "You're kidnapping them, Halden. I can't believe you do this to me." Another, "You're not a victim. You're punishing me because you were always too boring to keep my attention. That's not my fault." She was unraveling. In real time. Every message revealed a new version of her. One confused, one furious, one manipulative, one begging. But the most haunting one didn't start with words. It started with silence. Then soft crying. Then her whispering, almost to herself, "He doesn't love me anymore." I pushed him away. And now, I think I broke something I can't fix. I replayed that 3 times. Not because I felt pity, but because part of me wanted to. I wanted to cry. I wanted to scream into a pillow, punch a wall, smash something. But I just sat there at the edge of a borrowed bed, phone in my lap, trying to remember the last time she looked at me like I mattered. The kids thought we were on a surprise vacation. I let them believe it. I even built a campfire with them that night, burned some marshmallows, told a ghost story I half remembered from a Boy Scout trip. Isla fell asleep in my lap, sticky with chocolate. Elijah said it was the best week of his life. That nearly broke me. Because in their eyes, nothing was wrong. No betrayal. No secrets. No shattered trust or voicemails filled with fake apologies. Just marshmallows and stars and Dad being weirdly emotional about everything. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I stayed up listening to all 41 voicemails on loop. Not to torture myself, not really, but to study her, dissect her voice, try to figure out if there was a moment, even 1 second, where she meant it when she said she was sorry. But there wasn't. There were pauses, hesitations, sudden pivots from guilt to blame. It felt rehearsed, like she was trying on different versions of herself to see which one would make me come back. None of them worked, because somewhere around voicemail number 32, I realized the worst part of all of this. It wasn't that she lied. It was that I would have forgiven her if she'd just told the truth. I knew it was only a matter of time before he reached out. I just didn't expect it to be so casual, so stupidly normal. It came through Instagram. A message request from an account with exactly 3 posts, all gym selfies, filtered beyond recognition. His profile name was some dumb string of letters and numbers, like he didn't even bother trying to look real. The message simply said, "You should talk to her. She's not doing well." No name, no apology, just that. I must have read it 10 times. My thumb hovered over the block button, but I didn't press it. I just sat there in the driveway of the cabin, the kids inside watching a movie, the forest swallowing up any sound, and me, alone, staring at a message from the man who had been inside my wife less than a week ago. My hands shook. I wrote back. I don't even know why. Maybe because I wanted to see what kind of man destroys a family and then casually sends a text like he's giving a weather update. I said, "Is this the part where you tell me it wasn't serious?" He replied a minute later. It was serious for her. I didn't know she was married. She told me you were separated. That part knocked the wind out of me. She told him we were separated. She planned this. She rehearsed this. She built an entire version of herself that didn't include me. I asked him how long it had been going on. He answered right away. Since June. It was October. For months. For months of secrets, hotel rooms, lipstick that didn't come off in our laundry, lies about yoga classes, and fake weekend trips with Fiona. For months of sleeping beside me, waking up beside me, kissing me goodbye, all while looking me in the eyes and feeding me poison 1 drop at a time. He didn't say much else. He didn't defend her. In fact, I got the sense he was spooked. Maybe she had started unraveling on his end, too. Maybe he didn't like how easily she switched between identities. Maybe he thought I'd come for him. I wouldn't. I'm not that guy. But God, I wanted to be. I closed the app and threw the phone across the back seat. It hit the window and dropped onto the floor. Moose lifted his head, blinked, and went back to sleep. I sat there with my fists clenched so hard my nails cut into my palms. I wasn't angry because she cheated. I was angry because I thought it was my fault. I thought I hadn't touched her enough. I thought I worked too late. I thought my thinning hair or my faded shirts or my quiet personality had driven her away. I thought maybe I just shrunk in her eyes. But she didn't cheat because I was small. She cheated because she was empty. And now, I had to make a choice. Stay hidden in the woods with 2 kids and a dog, living off microwave meals and pretending this was just a long fall break. Or finally step out of hiding and confront the fire. I picked up the phone again, not to call her, but to send a message to her mother. Because if anyone knew how to handle Avery when she spiraled, it was her mom, the only woman who'd ever made her cry with a single sentence. And all I wrote was, "You need to come see your daughter. She's about to lose everything." It was supposed to be off. The living room camera, the one we bought together during a Black Friday sale after a neighbor's break-in, had been sitting on the mantel for over a year. It had a dying red LED, no working night vision, and hadn't sent us alerts in months. But somehow, the app still worked. I only opened it because I was trying to delete old accounts tied to Avery's email, part of my effort to digitally vanish. I didn't expect it to load a live feed. I certainly didn't expect to see her standing in the middle of our living room at 2 a.m., in one of my hoodies, barefoot, her hands trembling as she clutched an empty wine glass. The light in the kitchen was flickering behind her. A storm must have rolled in. She didn't notice. She was just staring at the couch, frozen, like the house itself had turned hostile. She walked slowly to the bookshelf and pulled out the old photo album we never finished. The one filled with half-written captions and one dried-up Sharpie tucked inside. She sat on the floor, flipped through the pages, then suddenly ripped out one of the photos, a beach picture from a trip to South Carolina. The kids were building sandcastles. She and I had our arms around each other. I remember that moment vividly, because she had whispered, "We're good again." She held the photo up to her chest like it was a child. Then she tore it straight down the middle. I didn't know how to feel watching that. Anger? Validation? Grief? What I felt was distance. Like I was watching someone I used to know slowly dissolve into the woman she had become. I watched her get up, knock over a lamp, scream into the darkness, then pace in circles until she finally collapsed on the couch, the same one where I once fell asleep holding our newborn son. The footage cut out shortly after. I stared at the loading wheel for 10 minutes before closing the app. I wanted to call her. I wanted to say something. Anything. But what could I say to someone who had burned down their own life and didn't even realize she was holding the match? The next morning, I found a voicemail from her mother. She had gone to check on Avery. She said the house smelled like wine and silence. That Avery didn't answer the door. That she had to let herself in with the old spare key. That when she found her daughter, she was curled up in the laundry room, crying into one of Elijah's sweatshirts. And then she said something I'll never forget. You don't need to forgive her. But don't underestimate what she's willing to lose just to prove she's not broken. It took me a while to understand what that meant. But I was starting to see it. Avery wasn't trying to win me back. She was trying to win, period. She was trying to convince herself that none of this mattered, that I had overreacted, that the kids were fine, that she could fix it all with a few tears, and maybe a weekend retreat with some spiritual-sounding podcast playing in the background. But the truth was uglier than that. She wasn't trying to save her family. She was trying to rewrite history. And I couldn't let her. Because now the kids were asking questions. And I didn't have a script for that. He was holding the phone upside down, watching one of Avery's older videos from a cloud backup I forgot to lock. She was laughing in it, twirling a strand of hair, teasing me about my dad jeans. I remember that afternoon. It was ordinary. Nothing dramatic. We were just killing time before dinner, and she decided to film me struggling to fold a fitted sheet. I had no idea she'd save the video. Elijah turned to me, his little brows scrunched. Why does mommy sound happy but look sad? He asked, like it was a riddle. I didn't know what to say, so I lied. Again, because sometimes grown-ups pretend. He nodded slowly, like he understood, but I knew he didn't. Not really. Not yet. Later that night, when both kids were asleep, I lay awake on the pull-out couch in the cabin, my eyes stinging from too much screen time and not enough sleep. I kept staring at the ceiling fan. Not spinning. Not clicking. Just sitting there silently, like it knew this story was circling the drain and waiting for the final flush. That's when the idea hit me. Or maybe it wasn't an idea. Maybe it was a need. A final act. I opened the laptop I'd borrowed from my sister and logged into an email account I hadn't touched in months. One that Avery didn't know about. One I used during our early years, before marriage, before kids, back when we still believed in things like joint Spotify playlists and matching Halloween costumes. I drafted an email. Not to her, but to me. To the version of me that existed 5 years ago. Before the burnout. Before the quiet resentment. Before the affair. Before the broken drawer and the voicemail and the red bikini in Palm Springs. I wrote, "This is what happens when you keep saying it's fine even when it's not. This is what happens when you ignore small cracks until they become structural collapse. This is what happens when you love someone more than they're willing to be loved." I didn't send it. I saved it as a draft. But it helped. Then, around 2:13 a.m., I got a text from an unknown number. "She tried to drive to you. Her mom stopped her. She's not okay, Halden." It was Marley again. That meant Avery had found out where we were. Or at least narrowed it down. I forgot Marley followed me on Venmo. I had paid for a grocery delivery 2 towns over with my real name. Sloppy. Rookie mistake. I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to pack the kids and run again. Get in the car, hit the highway, disappear into another Airbnb with another fake story. But I didn't move. Because I was tired of hiding. And because, maybe, deep down, I wanted her to show up. Not to fix things. Not to cry and beg and perform another breakdown. But to look me in the eye and say it. Say the one sentence she never had the courage to speak. I destroyed us. But she never came that night. Instead, the next morning, I opened the door to a different kind of visitor. A man in a dark blue jacket. Plain clothes. No badge visible. But the look on his face told me everything I didn't want to hear. He said, "Sir, we got a call. From your wife's mother. She's worried for your children's safety." I didn't argue with the man in the blue jacket. I let him talk. I answered his questions. I showed him the texts, the voicemails, Even the email from Avery's own mother begging me not to go home until she got her head back on straight. He nodded slowly, made a few notes, and finally said, "You're not in any trouble, Mr. Dyer. We're just trying to keep things from escalating." Then he left. The silence that followed was the loudest sound I'd heard in days. The kids were upstairs playing. Moose was curled at the door like a sentry, and I just sat on the edge of the bed holding my phone, wondering when the next hit would come. I expected a new wave of threats. More guilt. Another twisted rewrite of our marriage through Avery's lens. But that afternoon, something different happened. She showed up. Not yelling. Not crying. No grand entrance. No suitcase in tow. Just Avery, standing in the gravel driveway in jeans and a faded hoodie, soaked from the drizzle that had started an hour earlier. She didn't move. She didn't call out. She just stood there looking at the front of the cabin like it was a locked museum she used to live inside. I watched from the window. She didn't see me. She stood there for almost 20 minutes. And then, slowly, she turned around and walked back to her car. That's when I finally cried. Not because I missed her, but because in that moment, I saw the version of her I fell in love with. The one who didn't have to be the loudest voice in the room, who used to leave notes in my lunchbox, who once told me, "You make the world quieter." She didn't knock. She didn't demand to come in. She just left. And that, strangely, was the first real apology I ever got from her. The next week, we talked. It wasn't magical. It wasn't healing. It wasn't some Hallmark movie ending where everyone hugs and promises to never hurt each other again. But it was honest. She asked about the kids. I gave her updates. She asked if I hated her. I said no, and meant it. She asked if I'd ever come back. I said, not as your husband, but maybe, one day, as someone who doesn't flinch when he hears your name. She cried. I didn't. We agreed on a custody plan. No lawyers. No courtrooms. Just two people finally admitting what they broke and what still needed protecting. That was 6 months ago. Now, I'm back in a real house. Different state. Different rhythm. I have the kids half the week. Moose got older, slower, but he still climbs into bed like he owns it. Elijah's playing baseball. Isla just started dance. And me? I laugh again. Not every day. Not loudly. But when I do, it's real. Sometimes, I even sleep through the night. And when I hear the soft clicking of a ceiling fan now, I don't feel dread. I just smile. Because I know I'm finally somewhere I was supposed to be all along.